I caught you looking for advice. I really want to be one of those people that just twists their hair, you know, in the back, and then they put the clip in the back, and they just do that and it's fine. Instead, I look like a breed of... Okay, so the suggestion for this video actually came from one of you, which was that I should maybe do a video where I talk about how to be more articulate and more eloquent when writing and speaking, which is a huge compliment because I just want you to know I don't know what I'm doing 90% of the time, okay? I just want you to know that. With that, I'll do my best, but I want you to know I have no credentials. I'm just a girl that likes reading. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl that likes writing and philosophizing to herself, the walls, her phone, and friends. And that's kind of that. Those are my credentials. And the fact that you're watching me. That's kind of it. So do with that what you will. This is not a set of words of wisdom or advice per se. It's just some suggestions. And if you like them, take them. If you don't like them, leave them. If you don't like anything, I get you. Oh well, who am I to judge? You gotta do what you gotta do, pal. If you hear a cat or see a cat at any point in this video, she just came into my apartment. I did not get a cat. I'm trying to find her owners, but she's staying with me. So I have a cat for now. Just so you know. Okay. Alright, so if you know me, or if you don't know me, I'm a bit of a chatterbox, and I tend to go on a lot of tangents. So I decided to write things out again so I can make sure I don't go too far with explaining, because I tend to do that, which is, by the way, not very eloquent. Yes, I will go straight into my first point, which is actually a question that I will answer myself. So it's a rhetorical one. No need to think about it too much. And my question is, how would you guys define eloquence? Because I'm going to make an assumption based on what I also used to think that eloquence is. It's almost this idea of having a collection of big words that you use. It's like big adult words and frills and decorations and sounding poetic, and it's not really that, because I'm sure you've met people in your life that talk pretty, but at the end of the day, you feel like there's no substance behind what they're saying, right? Like they have the vocabulary for it, but it seems like they don't actually connect to what they're saying, which is my point, that I don't think we should think of eloquence in that way, and I think we should reframe it or redefine it in some kind of way as clarity. Having something in mind, understanding it, digesting it, sifting it through what's going here, actually feeling it. Precision. So that one is going to tie in to another point that I make. But precision. So keep in mind these components. And authenticity. As long as it sounds like it's something that is your truth, it sounds smart most of the times. It's like the concept of faking confidence. If you feel like you're confident, even if you're not fully there, even to the slightest degree, if you feel slightly sure of something, it's most likely going to come through. But you have to make sure that you understand what you're saying and you're not just making it pretty. Pretty and complex and a blabber of a sentence does not an eloquent person make. And I also need to learn that, because a lot of the times I put things that don't necessarily add to the substance. Sometimes it's a person that's really intentional. Eloquence asks for intention. Point number 2 is more of a suggestion, which you might already be doing, but I'm still going to throw it in there. When you read, try to also look, indifferent of what you're reading, try to look at the voice, at the syntax, at the sentence when somebody's trying to convey the simplest or the most complex of messages. Try to look at that voice and pinpoint the mind space in which the writer was in order to see what a writer, a quality, eloquent, a person that you deem to be eloquent, try to feel out the words that they're choosing. Try to understand the mechanics behind their choices and put yourself in the mind of a person that would use those certain words or that certain phrasing or that certain imagery. Like, really stick with it, because either it's going to resonate or not with you, but it gives you a choice to take from that writing style or not, if that makes sense. And I'm sure a lot of you already do this, where you analyze how a certain point is made, how a story goes from point A to point Z. What? From point A to point Z, yes. Sorry. And the reason I say that is because it's like a dance. An author's voice, a person's voice, the way that they convey things, is a dance. And everybody has their own unique style. So you need to look at how they take steps and how they move in order to understand what makes up their unique way of dancing, which you like. And if you like it, then trust me, there's something of that within yourself. You already know the theory. Point number 3, and my personal favorite, and my advice to anybody that feels comfortable with this kind of concept. You know how people suggest when they want to become famous, there's plenty of videos on this kind of stuff, or I don't know, whatever it be, that you create an alter ego. Let's wait for the siren, because I'm known for keeping sirens in. Right. You know how there is the concept of creating an alter ego? I think, and I really subscribe to the whole thing of creating an alter ego as a writer. Differentiate between the way you write in your journal and the person that you are when you write for somebody to read. I'll give you my personal examples, and I'll read out to you something. But what I mean by that is I think a lot of people could benefit from a certain delineation, because being in the writer mind space, at least for me, implies this almost surgical look at feelings, things that I'm seeing, things that I'm sense, everything. Everything is surgical, everything is rational, everything is going through a certain lens of trying to capture the moment so vividly that I'm not even present anymore. That is the kind of person that I become when I write. I'm closed off to any kind of sound, any kind of anything, that is not the same person that walks out to go hang out with their friends. That person is going to use Gen Z slang, and she's going to look longingly at a tree and think about some metaphors that she's going to surgically analyze later. So I just want you to know that. Also, if you're into the idea of creating a YouTube channel or anything like that, like I do, try to create an alter ego besides the writer and the real you, or the thought person you, that is also the presenter slash performer in some kind of way. You need to, okay, maybe you don't need to, but I need to. I need to separate and to create different personas that I tap into. If you feel like naming them, if you feel like giving them certain traits, if you feel like, do so. And don't only exercise them, preferably in the times when you need it. So, for example, talk to yourself like you would to the camera. But that kind of comes with another point that I'll make later. So I highly recommend creating a writer persona and a writer-performer persona, and you. Maybe not the healthiest, maybe not the, I don't know. I'm just telling you what works for me. And a cut to me reading to you something out of my personal journal. That is not supposed to sound smart. So you can see the distinction that I make when I'm writing from a place of writing for myself and when I'm writing from the writer alter ego. Anyways, I think this one's fine. Okay. Friday the 3rd of August. It feels so weird writing with my whole family around me. They are so many and so loud, but right now there's barely anyone in the kitchen or in the living room, which suits me just fine. I am garnering and gathering that today is going to be a rather interesting day, but tomorrow we leave back for Bucharest. It's so funny being around some people that are so close-minded, not even properly starting a conversation and being told from the get-go that my generation cannot hold a discussion. I find it absolutely fascinating how stuck up some people are. I find it fascinating that they pretend to want to listen. Somehow, you might think after a tremendous amount of censorship, they would want to experiment with open-mindedness. Baffles me, really. How could someone proudly call themselves a racist, homophobe, and transphobe? My family member that I'm being vague about, it's not in the immediate family, sorry, definitely has no issue with it. I don't exactly understand what they get out of it, really. How privileged of a person do you have to be so encased in your own ways? I can fully respect another's opinion if they can listen. It's insane, really. It must be an interesting process. Really makes you think about all the things that lead someone to the beliefs they have. I don't pretend to be right, or my generation, but it seems like such a mystery to me. How can one love limits? What makes one admire fences and cages? Okay, I did get a bit poetic in the last 2 lines, I guess. Vaguely. But you get it. It's casual. Kind of like Chapel Roan song. And then we have the stuff that I would write on my laptop or in another notebook that I feel more confident about, and I turn that persona of the writer on when I write about it. So it's not casual by any means. It's supposed to maybe be considered for actually reading out loud. Let me choose randomly. Yeah, I think this one's fine. Okay. So, I called it Beyond a Sore Throat. And still, I feel a scratch in my throat I cannot get rid of. No matter the tinctures, no matter the amount of time I try to abstain from coughing, I fool myself that this is just another cold, brought on by the chills of the world I cannot live without venturing into. Once in a while I get better. My body sinks into its health, after all my cleanses, all my baths, and all my teas and nourishment. All the nutrients of pain carry me through the days I find myself in perfect condition. I wander as a sickly child in its own disinfected world with wonder, through a space of independence. I marvel at my abilities and my sturdy walk, how confidently I shake people's hands. For a while I am able to understand that I do not have to exist in malady. I inhale the freedom. I always miss it so dearly in times of congestion. I remember I can exist devoid of medicine and body wraps with cabbage leaves tending to my neck. I can smell trash outside the one in my own bins, and I feel all at once one with the movement of the earth itself. I am me, and I need no more. I am me, and I walk streets paved and unpaved. I am, and I need nothing more than another morning to thank for my wakefulness. I almost forget I take any shape, and I feel that may just be I, truly, wholly, undoubtedly existing and beyond. Days, sometimes weeks pass, and undoubtedly a passerby, one that at most usually just looks at me, makes some small talk, unknowingly talks of illnesses. He or she starts looking just a little too long, starts planting seeds of remembrance they are not aware stand at the root of my malady, a possibility, my worst fear, and my greatest pleasure. One idea, and my freedom slips back into chains, put into a sandglass, soaring from one extreme to the other. Cue rise in dreams, cue realization in fall. Cue a snowballing need to readjust my voice, a slight feeling as if some residue of pepper gets stuck in my throat after a hearty vegetable soup. The panic of knowing the itch can come back, followed by scratch and pain, to swallow, to gulp, comes over me in uncontrollable, randomly placed seconds. I calm myself down. I am beyond still, beyond my thoughts, beyond my feelings. They are to be acknowledged, but I tasted beyond long enough. I quite like it now. So then, will I succeed this time, these next few times, in standing my beyond ground? If winter comes, if I dance in the rain just a bit too much, if I stare in the wind and gulp too much freezing air, Will I still see beyond? What if I were to learn from my neck to scratch, even break skin, break body, break what I can touch and perceive, and remain beyond? Exactly. If we're looking at suggestions purely on the vocabulary expansion, I think the only advice that I could possibly give you is to expose yourself to resources that have that kind of material, because otherwise there isn't any way. So read, obviously, or intentionally look for vocabulary apps. I have one on my phone. I don't use it all the time, but it's quite useful because I use it as a widget and it just kind of appears all the time and I see definitions. Sometimes it's words that are very basic. If not that, trust me, there's my TikTok is full of videos where they basically have a slideshow of words you could use that sound really good and are old, and there's definitions. And if one of them sticks out to you, actually write it down. Or, it's something that you would use because it has a quality that you would find in your daily observations. If we're talking another kind of expansion, which I would like to call right now sensory expansion, I think it's really important for a writer to be a very sensuous and not necessarily sensual, but sensuous person. Purely because you're talking about things that, when we're talking about eloquence, just like I said in the first point, they're sifted through your core, through some kind of, they're personal, it's subjective. So you need to have a certain understanding of how certain things feel in order to capture a feeling, or I don't know, a certain temperature, or the wind in the morning when it comes through the window, or the sunset, or how a person makes you feel. You need to have all of those experiences. And so I recommend doing things that engage your senses outside of writing. Could be sports, obviously, but I'm not the hugest on that. I don't necessarily think that it gives you the biggest edge. Something like cooking or perfume that gives you smell, really tap into your natural abilities. Music, how does that make you feel? Certain sounds, really pay attention to everything that's going on and how your body and how everything interacts, especially your body, your skin, how something makes you feel, how it makes your friend feel unsettled to see a certain image, but it makes you feel at home. Small things like that. And really feel it out. Think of yourself as a mole. You're blind. Think of yourself as the character from Patrick Suskind's Perfume. You're just trying to grasp the moment up to a degree that is inhuman. Now, on the verbal side of things, when it comes to speaking, once again, I think the only way you can possibly have that kind of experience is to expose yourself to moments of discomfort. I say that as a person that doesn't feel normal talking to the camera on their phone. I can be awkward at times. It's not like that's not a thing. So just hear me out with this one. You need the practice no matter how uncomfortable it is if you want to have some kind of presence. Whether it be, I don't know, if you have the possibility, do something weekly with your family, like a presentation. You go on Saturdays or on Friday nights, besides everything you do in a week, also make a presentation and project it on the TV, do something, and try to present it to them if they have the willingness to do that. Obviously, not everybody has that possibility. If not that, friends. If not friends, and nothing seems to be working, try to film yourself speaking, because the presence and how you convey certain things counts for a lot. And I tell you this in not knowing how I come across to the fullest degree, but in knowing how I used to come across, I don't know, when I was 18. Because my dad, when I worked in the internship, my dad suggested that I really try to make a presentation every single week in front of 2-3 people. on whatever topic I wanted, which is what I suggest for you as well, and present it. And he would note certain things about my body language, like how I used to move a lot and to just make awkward sounds or to be too energetic up to a point where it just comes across as anxious, which is natural, but there is a certain security. It's like you're grounded within yourself while also trying to sing. Like, do you ever get anxiety when trying to sing in front of somebody that they're there? It's like closing your eyes, imagining you're somewhere else, and just trying to feel out what you're saying in the best way possible. Like that's the level of presence and focus you should have. But yeah, at the same time, there's an element of performance, and there's an element of you have to make sure that your body language is open, that you're not moving too much, that you're not talking too loud, that you're not... There's a lot of variables. And public speaking is complicated. Rhetoric is something that a lot of people have to learn, and it's been an entire art in itself throughout history. But the best thing that I can tell you is it's important to imagine that you're having a one-on-one conversation, I would say, with a best friend, while also thinking that you're hot shit. Does that make sense? Like, this is the simplest way I can put it. Think you're hot shit, but you're talking to your best friend. That's the confidence I want you to have when you're making a point. And as for tying it into the video with the writing routines, because that's kind of what was asked, to sort of talk about even emulating certain writers' styles. I didn't look to trying to sound like the person, and I think what for me is the most important and might be a very obvious point was trying out the routines, was doing the research and reading up on the person, was looking back on how they write and trying to imagine what kind of person writes from that space. What are they thinking of? Why are they choosing to focus on this? Why are they portraying it through this specific frame rather than the multitude of choices that they had? What is it about their habits? What is it about their upbringing? And you try to relate it, because that's the point that I feel like I've been trying to make, that eloquence and making your point come across as smart is a certain innateness to you. It implies that, at least in my head and in my world. So try to adapt that to you, to your habits. It's like trying to write like Murakami, but imagine you're Murakami. What are you thinking of? You're a man that just woke up at 4. You're still you to some degree. You're part of that world. You study the world, for example, in Kafka on the Shore. Imagine you're a shell on a beach, noticing everything. How would you frame those things? Don't try too much. It's still the same world. It's still, everything is the same. But it's not like painting, where you draw exercise by trying to imitate other people's way of painting. Although, admittedly, one-on-one copies are rare. If somebody can do that, kudos to them. But that's kind of what I'm trying to say, that eloquence comes from a balance between studying other people and studying yourself and your environment. So I guess that's my point. It's being in tune with yourself while also being in tune with everything else. It's a double presence that needs to be there. Does that make any sense? I hope so. I honestly don't know. This was the video. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing unbelievable. It's just my own 2 cents on how to do that. It's not a guide per se, because I could not possibly offer you that to the fullest degree, because I think eloquence and sounding good is very subjective. What I like, you might not like. What you might like, I might not like, and that's totally fine. With that, I would like to thank you for watching, and also, once again, if you're interested in donating for the people of Gaza, which I have talked about, I have some links if you're available in any kind of way to pay even the smallest amount. Just so you know, it would be appreciated, because what's going on is absolutely... I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's unspeakable. So with that, I'm leaving the links to some donations if you would like. Kisses. Hope you're doing well. And if you ever feel like commenting on some of my videos, some drafts of what you've written, and no shame in your game, as you should. I will not judge you. This is a no judgment place. I'm more than open to reading your stuff, just so you know. Thanks for watching.